Goeienaand. Good evening, fellow South Africans from a warm Brisbane. Okay, we're moving back to the subject of expropriation of land without compensation. I know I haven't touched it for a few days, and you need an update, and they've just come through. And I'm afraid it's really bad news. It's not good at all. Okay, I've got two separate sources here who've contacted me. I'm not going to reveal their identities, and you'll see why when I provide the information that I've got. One is what is happening with the Free State, with the farms there. Now let's remember that the Free State was completely vacant when, except for the Griqua, when the voortrekkers came through. There were no Bantu in that region at all. Not one. Okay? So for them to say that the Free State lands were stolen from them is bullshit. And I've got a video, which I'll link below, where I tell the whole history of South Africa, and you can see that fact to be self-evident. Now, let's get back to these two areas. The two things I'm going to be discussing are the 5 types of land that under the draft act that is going before Parliament, the 5 types of land that can be expropriated without compensation, and also with compensation as well. Okay, so they've identified these 5 areas. Public Works Minister Thulas Nkezi on Friday morning published a draft of the new expropriation bill, kicking off a 60-day comment period. The draft law spells out in detail how expropriation, mostly with compensation, will work, detailing how valuations should be done, how disputes should be settled, and how money should be paid. No property, including land, may be expropriated arbitrarily or for any reason other than the public interest, the law holds. Now, yesterday in a video I mentioned that someone who knows our friend Malema very well said that he owns several farms, and he's got whites who are actually farming on them for him. Now, clearly, where Malema might be affected by this law, they're going to make sure that that doesn't happen. So it looks like farmers who are actually farming their land are going to be saved. But let's continue with these 5 areas in the draft law. Okay, it goes on to say the expropriation bill also specifically holds that it may be just and equitable for nil compensation to be paid where land is expropriated in the public interest under certain circumstances. There are 5 kinds of property. The new expropriation bill could be subject to expropriation without compensation. Okay, so these are the 5 kinds of property that under this bill they'll be able to take without compensation. Abandoned property. 0 compensation could be fair where the owner of the land has abandoned the land, the draft law holds. It does not specifically refer to hijacked buildings in central business districts, but legal experts have previously speculated that such buildings would be easy targets for expropriation without compensation. I can see the red ant's been very, very busy. I did a video on these guys who actually go in and toss squatters out of buildings. Okay, the second property. Property owned by the likes of Eskom and Transnet. Not paying compensation could be just where the land is owned by a state-owned corporation or other state-owned entity, the expropriation bill says. The more than 700 state entities in South Africa include many with extensive land holdings surrounding various facilities, including such urban gems as Eskom's Megawatt Park headquarters north of Johannesburg. Land held for speculation. Now, this is going to be a controversial one. It may be equitable to pay nil compensation where the land is held for purely speculative purposes, the draft reads. It does not specify how to differentiate between land snapped up for future development and land bought with the idea of flipping it for a profit. Land into which the state has already invested more than its value. Expropriation without compensation could be done when the market value of the land is less than the value of direct state investment or subsidies spent either to buy it or on capital improvements made. There has been speculation that failed land reform projects, where government has heavily subsidized community farming projects, could be subject to expropriation and redistribution. And the final area, the fifth area, is farms with labour tenants, or perhaps just portions of such farms. Expropriation without compensation may be appropriate where the land is occupied or used by a labour tenant, the draft law says. The labour tenants are defined as people who live or who have the right to live on a farm, or in some cases, those who had parents or grandparents who worked on a farm in return for living there. They also include some people who had the right to cropping or grazing. The draft bill makes provision for partial expropriation, which could be used to expropriate only sections of farms, but also has a mechanism where those affected by partial expropriation can ask for the full property to be taken instead. So those are the 5 areas, guys. Now, remember, that's without compensation. So with compensation could involve a regular farm. Now, the other bit of news I got, and this is from a very, very reliable source. He knows who he is. Okay, I'll just read to you what he said. What happened, in short, is that the farmers in the Free State had a meeting about the banks, because the banks are becoming very, very nasty towards them, if I can put it that way. And he says, we went into negotiations with the bank. We asked them to delay all the auctions of farms that were in trouble, or we will manipulate the auctions. I told you that just by mentioning that they wanted to change Section 25 of the Constitution, the property clause, the value of property has dropped by 40% on all property. No one will buy anything in such an uncertainty. The banks have therefore stopped negotiations for the moment. What happened then is that the Free State Agricultural Union hasn't got what it takes to save us farmers from total annihilation. The TLU was with us from the start of negotiations as well, and they went to the banks just to ask for a more extended period for farm auctions not to take place. Now, as I will say it, jealousy makes you nasty. The TLU is an outsider that cared more for us than our own agricultural union. These droughts here are in the 8th year of under normal rainfall. 2 nobody farmers stood up for a town and accomplished more for farmers than our organization could. Not that the organization has seen what has been accomplished by the 2 farmers. It makes them angry, and wild accusations are thrown at them. Free State Agricultural Union, Grain South Africa, and Agri-SA is a lost cause in this country. The difference between them and the TLU is as follows. The TLU is bringing up the concerns of the South African farmers to the ANC government, and the others are bringing up the narratives of the ANC to the farmers. Which one will you support? Obviously the TLU, not the other mob who are just pushing the ANC line. I just hope this jealousy does not sink our accomplishments with the banks up to now. Mr. Haggart, who I've spoken about previously, he's that director in the bank, did what he could to stop the auctions there. A more open line of negotiations with the TLU helped us a lot on this matter. There's just one bank official that must stop the auctions, and that's Elrich Cameron from the FNB, or the First National Bank. He really, in my eyes, thinks he can say and do what he wants, and his bosses must talk to him before things get out of hand. The Free State Agricultural Union tried to hijack the diesel donations to us yesterday, saying we must think of everyone in town, not just in trouble. Not now everyone is in trouble. Not just the two farmers with Boereburger or Droogtehelp who have accomplished this great donation of all the diesel. So all of a sudden, the Free State Agriculture Union is trying to grab all the diesel that has been donated to this group of farmers. And this fellow goes on to say, the Free State Agriculture Union underestimates us, and it's going to cost them dearly. We will ride the bus with the TLU from now on because of their integrity, and because it's the only agricultural union that is based on the principles laid down by God. We have been forsaken by the banks in this country, but I just hope that this happening I mentioned isn't damaging the accomplishments with the banks so far. They must know that if all we want to do is provide food for millions and provide jobs for millions, and if the banks bring us down due to factors beyond our control, South Africa is fucked, and starvation will not be a pretty sight. Now, let's understand something here. This expropriation of land without compensation, I've talked about this a lot. It's now resulting in a hell of a lot of uncertainty about land, and a lot of farmers are trying to get the hell out of their land. They're trying to sell it. They just don't want to be part of it. And land prices, as this fellow mentions, have dropped by 40% in the Free State farms since this act has been passed. Think of that. Imagine if the value of your property dropped 40% overnight. And on top of that, they've got droughts. They are fighting all sorts of banks who are just giving them a really hard time now. We need to put our thoughts and our prayers behind these Free State farmers, because they are in real trouble, guys. And the Malemas of the world who keep on chirping away about how they're going to steal the land from people, this is a wake-up call, because you close down those farms and you starve. It's called consequences. All right, guys, please subscribe to be kept informed, and have a great evening. Bye for now.